Alright, I'm partially breaking my never talking about Bloody Roar 4 rule just this once so I can try doing something constructive. In the off chance that all the planets align, hell becomes a snowboarding hotspot, and a mass exorcism takes place at Konami headquarters, a new Bloody Roar might have a shot of happening. In non-pachinko format. If it does, here are a few things I would do for a hypothetical Bloody Roar 5, most of which you'll probably disagree with. I'll start small and work up to the bigger changes. First off, don't send mixed messages with the advertising. The old "fight like an animal" slogan summed up Bloody Roar pretty well, a hell of a lot better than "let the transformation begin" ever did. And to get the point across, early ads primarily focused on Yugo, since werewolves and wolfmen are commonly known and understood across several cultures. Later ads tended to focus on Xion and Nagi, two people who look little to nothing like what the game primarily focuses on. Imagine only using Gon and Mokujin to promote Tekken 3. Also, don't limit yourself to just some GameFAQs banners and nondescript magazine ads. I know TV time and YouTube ads can be expensive, but Bloody Roar is not the kind of thing where you need a 30-second ad to get the point across. Character turns into animal, splice shots of them beating the shit out of each other, title graphic, system it's on, and cut. A new sound library. Bloody Roar had a bad habit of reusing the same assets over and over and over, particularly when it came to sound effects. You can hear some of the same sounds in Bloody Roar 1 as in 2, 3, Extreme, and 4. Even when the new beast forms were added, sound effects tended to come from sound libraries already sampled countless times before by other games. I know when I first heard the dragon form in 4 that all I could think of was Doom. Make the effort to find or record new sounds. And while I'm near the subject, hire an appropriate composer. Whether this means rehiring Takayuki Negishi or finding someone in the same vein, don't cheap out on the music and make sure it's appropriate to the tone you're trying to set. My inner fanboy wants to say get Negishi and bring on Joe Satriani to play the guitar parts, but Joe's got bigger and better things to do. I assume. Next, retain and build on the speed of 3. You know how some fighting games pause for a moment when someone gets hit? Street Fighter, Guilty Gear, Dragon Ball FighterZ? Yeah, keep that out of Bloody Roar. Every time I see it, I imagine a boxing match where someone keeps pausing the live feed. 3 did the best job of creating a frenetic pace where you're fighting on instinct, and the simpler control scheme allows the player to behave that way. Keep pushing that pace. It might be plausible to keep some of the counters and throws from Extreme, but the animations for some of them took a while and slowed down the pace of combat. Just don't overdo it with that shit or it might encourage more passive play. Speaking of overdoing it, get rid of the mystical bullshit. While 3 is arguably the most popular in the series, its introduction of the Tabula and the Unborn ultimately did more harm than good, opening the door for a Phoenix and Gaia and more non-beast forms and people getting resurrected and dragons and spooky shadows and stop. Just stop it. Hit the rewind button to the start of 3 and try again. Keep the characters if you must, but redo their beast forms and origins so they aren't so laughably out of pace with everything else. Except Mana and Nagi, they can be left out. I call that addition by subtraction. Also, bring back story mode and create more conflict. Story mode was a refreshing mode of play which helped flesh out the characters beyond their beast forms and movesets, and gave more replay value as an additional mode of play and unlockable art. Bringing this back should be a no-brainer, and it could be expanded upon to include things like branching paths, unique stages, an additional ending or two, and stuff like that. It could also delve deeper into how zoanthropy works. For example, just how bad of an injury can a zoanthrope heal from? Does it only work on physical injuries, or can it protect from illnesses, or alcohol or radiation poisoning? Imagine a zoanthrope or group of zoanthropes escaping persecution by setting up shop in Pripyat. Or maybe I'm playing too many Metro games. As for conflict, by the time the series got to the 3rd entry, you had a bunch of fighters who knew each other and were friends, or at least knew that they weren't responsible for whatever shit was going down. 4 sort of had a reason for this, but it was poorly thought out and not explained well at all. Bloody Roar 2 had an environment where several roster members were either manipulated to work against each other, or flat out didn't know who to trust and ended up fighting each other. Beyond that, Uriko fought Long as part of her training, Bakaru fought Yugo because he was brainwashed at the time, Shina fought Gato because daddy issues. This is where I felt like Bloody Roar was at its best, and it's not too late to do it again because of my next point. Where are the dissenting humans and zoanthropes? Yes, I'm bringing up humans. In fact, I will go so far as to suggest adding a human character to the roster. See, the ZLF in 2 was the biggest front for radical zoanthrope activity, but that couldn't have been the only one on the planet. And with all that going down, you really think the humans are just going to shrug their shoulders and go see what's on Nick at Night? Hell no! They'll respond by forming their own groups and finding ways to level the playing field with zoanthropes. You know, saying that out loud, I just got the mental image of a human fighting a zoanthrope using something like the power loader from Aliens. Just something a bit more sophisticated than that. Either way, with how empty several stages are across all the games, the world's population seems to be around 20,000 people. Either repopulate the environments or add some new stages where they're more likely to show up. And while you're at it, do more to vary each stage's layout. Not just by adding extra areas when breaking through the original boundary, but with what's within those enclosures. Not all of them are going to be perfect squares or rectangles which look like they were swept clean right before the fight started. The more shit I can knock over or destroy by roundhouse kicking a wolf across the room, the better. 2 + 3 equals beast gauge. I wouldn't just outright scrap the broken health system from 4, I would go back to a combination of the systems between 2 and 3. There would still be the beast gauge charge system, but I'd make it so beast drives were more risk-reward like in 2 for 2 reasons. 1, I'm still bitter about losing a fight because my opponent missed a beast drive and recovered some health before time ran out. 2, it would help encourage the use of Hyper Beast mode. I've only ever seen the computer use Hyper Beast mode, largely because the pros don't outweigh the major con of the very short time frame it can be used in. How can Zoanthrope fight? Characters in the Bloody Roar series actually have some unique little intricacies about how they perform, namely characters with extra cancel points. The problem is, you'd never know that because these things aren't explained in the instruction booklet or in the game, and they were barely explained by Hudson themselves beyond dropping names like Any Cancel B or Kazuri A, which mean absolutely nothing to anyone who's not neck-deep in the series. Make it clear what makes each of these characters special so you don't have as many reviewers claiming they're mostly identical. Also, cut back on the number of combos that are performed by just mashing the same button 4 or 5 times. 1 or 2 characters having that isn't bad, but take further advantage of a mix of directional inputs with attack buttons, and leave the door open to incorporate specials at extra points. And lastly, beat 'em up. Yes, I'm ripping off Guilty Gear Judgment and Iska as well as the Tekken Force mode. If you go with the idea of a militant human group creating chaos, they'd make the perfect fodder for a beat 'em up like game. In my head, I imagine it playing out from a third-person view behind the controlled character, then switching to a side view at set encounter points, some avoidable, some not, to beat down overconfident peons. Being in beast form outside fights attracts more attention, but also more chances to run up your score. This could also be a nice way to throw in some unlockables in some out-of-the-way section as an otherwise unassuming destructible part of the environment. And that's what I would do with a hypothetical Bloody Roar 5, hypothetical because it's not going to happen. I may or may not be trying to reverse jinx this.